Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is David Brooks, a Cadillac counselor, and I'm coming to tell you a little piece of my mind. And today I have a new candidate that is, I wouldn't say new. She ran 2 years ago, and had a powerful campaign. And I'm just kind of excited to see what the next 2 years that what improvements she's had, different opinions that she might have come up with or seen new things that need to be addressed. So I'm just grateful to have all of these candidates sign up to be interviewed because I know that you guys want to be informed, and why not create a platform for people to get their word out so that we can become better voters. So I just can't wait to hear what her opinions are. So I'm not going to waste any more time. Can you introduce yourself to the people?
Ab- Absolutely, David. You did a great job. Once again, thanks for having me on your platform. And my name is Rayna Remondini, and I am a wife of 17 years. My husband and I have been married for 17. Wow, that's a lot.
That's a
Yeah, when you say it out loud. And then I'm the mother of six wonderful children. My first three bonus daughters are out of the house now, but they all went to public school. And I'm also head of school, like you mentioned, at a micro school in Columbia, Maryland, that focuses on servicing and supporting families that are choosing to homeschool.
okay. All right. All right. So tell me this, and we're gonna treat this almost like a conversation more than an interview.
Mhm.
But well, you ran 2 years ago, and now you're running again. What made you want to say, I'm putting my name back in the hat again?
Well, my parents didn't raise I've got a little grit. So my parents didn't raise a quitter. I believe that if you have a dream and if you're convicted, just because you fall down, you get back up. So I decided to take my wounds because I did come in last place. I was 16 out of 16. And I said to myself, David, I can't do any worse than that, right? So I'm here because I want families to understand that I'm really dedicated, and this is my life. I'm serious about my work, and I'm maybe I'm one of few people now that pessimistic. There's more pessimism about our institutions, but I do happen to believe that government can help the people, that we can make a difference and have a ripple effect. And so I haven't given up on that.
Good, good. There's a big topic about vouchers, about people being able to just pick whatever school they want to. If they don't want to go to public school, allow the parents to decide where they want their kid to go to. If they want them to go to charter schools, want them to go to homeschool, but the money should travel with the student. So, what do you think about this conversation?
I'm in total agreement. And I wish that if I were on the Board of Education, I had the ability to actually affect that policy. But I think that it goes more towards our governor. It goes more, higher up the ladder. And I believe that parents should apply pressure. We should make our voices known. I'm very pro school voucher. To me, that is school choice. And I think that the way we do our system right now, where kids are put into certain schools based on their zip codes, that doesn't make sense to me. It's time to reimagine what I call the monopoly, the public school system. It's time to be creative and think we have to change this system. But that's like changing the course of a ship, you know. It's very slow because it's slow moving. And like you said during our prior conversation, a lot of people maintain the status quo because it's hard to get that change. So if we're not seeing the change, what is our recourse? It's time to put the power back in the hands of the parents. And by that, I mean this. Parents see school on an individual level. That's your child. That's your progeny that's going into that school. So, of course, your focus is individualized. So, why shouldn't the money go with that child? And you, as the parent, you know your child. You know if they're on the spectrum. You know if they have special needs. You might even know if they're a tactile, visual, auditory learner. So, why can't you make that decision to put them in a specific school that is going to, be an environment where they can thrive? I don't want to overstate it, but I believe that schools today are factories. And it's not a one size fits all. You can't be everything to every student.
Point blank. Um, so tell me this. A lot of parents are frustrated with the public school system because they think that um, uh, their child is maybe a perfect child, maybe not. But discipline is starting to become a major issue, conversation. People are saying that teachers are being hurt at school by students, especially in the special education program. I've had teachers say, they've been out for months because of an injury. Bus drivers are starting to say, I don't want to even ride a bus because drive the bus because the discipline is getting out of hand. What would you say are some of the focuses that need to be addressed to bring structure back into the public school system?
That's a good question. I don't know if there's something in the water, but the kids are not the same and everything's not okay. They came back from COVID and there's a high level of anxiety. There's a high level of depression. The children are not okay. And then on top of that, the teachers are not okay. And we have to remember that the teachers are human beings too. They leave that building and they have families and they have children to go back home to. And they're dealing with a lot of stress. And so I think that as far as discipline is concerned, some things that could help is to put the power back in the hands of the teachers. I think that the administration has bound their hands to where they can't do anything in their classroom because the children have more power than they do. A lot of times the children are allowed to be disruptive in the classroom. It causes a shell shock throughout the rest of the class. This child gets to leave, which in a way may be a reward because they didn't want to be there in the first place. You still have these children that do want to learn, that are still left in the classroom, that are having to deal with the anxiety of whatever occurred. Meanwhile, this child, is jumping on a trampoline or is talking with the principal, is getting to be able to defrag and is being talked down, But meanwhile, if they do return to the class, they get back on. There's no tools in place. The teachers need to be able to have the power to discipline these kids. These kids need to be able to not have their phones. Take the cell phones out of the classrooms. It's a slippery slope. It's nuanced. It's not black and white because when there were these things put in place, we found, because I was on one of the boards with the NAACP, the local Frederick chapter, and there was a lot of discussion of how Black and brown students were more apt to be disciplined when it was in effect than other students. So there are some things that need to be put into place so there's a balance, but we have to support these teachers because you're right. These kids they're cursing, they're coming to school under the influence, they're being disruptive. These teachers aren't teaching. These teachers don't even have time to teach because they're trying to figure out how to control their classrooms. So teaching has become, that's put on the back burner because now all of these teachers now have to put on a different hat and they have to be behavioral therapists or they have to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that, this is just the bottom line that I have for that is that we just have to empower these teachers
Mm.
to regain control.
So tell me this, how do you plan on attracting new teachers? Because there's not really a lot of I mean, our neighboring counties are paying a little bit more than we are paying. I mean, how are we going to get new teachers when there's really not a lot? I was talking to Janae, and we were talking about how all of these counties around us are stepping it up really quickly, and a lot of people are leaving Frederick to go work in Montgomery County, Washington County, Carroll County, Howard County. How are we going to keep them here? How are we going to get good teachers to stay in Frederick County?
I don't think it's all about the money. I know a lot of teachers. I work with them day in and day out. And most of them tell me that they're in it because they want to make a difference.
Mm,
I mean, these are really some noble human beings. They say I'm in it because, when I was young, a teacher impacted my life and I want to give back, or I love working with children. So to me, the teaching profession has taken a similar hit to like the police profession. They've been smeared. They've been, you know, just put into the ground. They've been spat on. They've been disrespected. And so there's a morale problem. There's a morale issue. And I also think what we were just talking about, the discipline in the room, these teachers feel like they're putting their selves in harm's way, like they went to school to teach, and now they're in these environments where again they're overwhelmed. So I think what we do is first of all, let's put some shine back on the profession itself. Let's do what's possible to give respect back to these people because if anything, they have our children, they have our children's hearts and minds. They spend a lot of time with our children. And so we have to put our money where our values are.
mm,
And as a society,
mm.
we need to take a moment and rethink where are we going to play? Now, again, the blueprint, they're pledging billions of dollars of funding, but are they going to put it in the right places, David? You need to get your teachers like this. Let's start here. You were allowed to be a teacher. You were given a chance to help people. You wanted to help people, and you had some issues, right? That were just put to the side because you were a person that was of value. And sometimes maybe you have to let some of the bureaucracy slide. You have to maybe bring in some conditional teachers. Maybe we have to look at some paraprofessionals. But we have to bring more bodies into the building. And so if you're not attracting these teachers because they're not going to school in the first place, because they've been scared, they've heard all these horrible things. Like I know teachers that tell me, Rayna, I will go shopping at Marshall's and I'll see a sign for an assistant manager. And that person, that assistant manager is making as much as I'm making. And I have a master's degree. You know what I'm saying? And so you're going to have you want certified teachers, but yeah, what is the pay that we're starting at? What, 60,000 or so? Is that our starting mark?
I think that's where we're at now.
Okay. So why don't you bring in some paraprofessionals, bring in some, some conditional teachers who are still working their way to get their certification with a starting salary, I don't know, somewhere between, 47 to 55 a year. That would give people more incentive. Incentivize teachers by maybe if they move to the area where they're going to work If you're going to live in the neighborhood where your school is, where you teach, give these teachers some sort of rebate on their mortgage. Give them some sort of tax relief, right? You can get very creative. If people want to just imagine, they can. Let's just all think. Incentivize them by giving them less work. Give them more weeks to prepare their lessons. Incentivize teachers to want to be in the building by supporting them instead of making them feel wedged between parents and the administration. You know, a lot of these teachers feel like they're walking on eggshells. They don't want to communicate with the parents because the parents are going to curse them out. Some of these parents are wild. They're like, what you mean? What you mean, my kid? You know, a lot of these parents are spoiled. A lot of these parents have these kids in these pre-Ks and kindergarten programs where you can tune your camera in on the classroom, you know, and you're used to getting all this information. They send you a little photo of Johnny, you know, that he's eating his lunch. And so, you know, you're thinking, I get all this, I should get this. And then you get to the next level and it's like, wait a minute, this teacher hasn't emailed me in a week. What's going on with my kid? And that's because they want to, they really do want to. And I'm not going to make a general statement, but all parents and involvement is not the same. And some parents will curse you out because they feel like you are the problem.
Huh?
Sacred triad. And I'll leave it with this, David. I'm sorry to be so verbose, but I feel like the sacred triad is broken. And we need to focus on that. How can we make more synergy between parents, teachers, and the students?
We got to do something because the parents are feeling lost. The communication's not there. Some of the communication's kind of skewed, so you really don't know exactly what's being said. It's kids in special education. The parents don't really know how to navigate the system. There's just so many different caveats that I could find in that world. But the one thing that I was going to ask you was, you know, there's been a conversation about the 400s and all of the genders conversations. How do you feel about is there some change that needs to be made in that in the 400s, or do you think it's okay right now?
That's a loaded question, but it's a question that I have to answer. And when I give you my answer,
Mm-hmm,
half of the people are going to disagree and they
mm-hmm,
may demonize me and think I'm the worst thing since what have you. And the other half are going to cheer me on and they're going to say, well, you know what, I agree with that stance.
mm-hmm,
At the end of the day, I have to take a position.
mm-hmm.
My position is this. Let me just say first, my daughters, all of them are members of the LGBTQ community.
Okay,
So I'm speaking as a parent,
okay, okay,
member of that community.
okay.
Where I stand on that is I feel like, David, the school building, it should be for education. And it's become much more than that. It's no longer about education anymore. It's about trying to teach these children how to um, how to cope, perhaps, how to have social skills. It's not just about hard skills, but now it's about soft skills. And part of that is interaction with gender identity issues. Part of that in some schools is whether or not a third bathroom should be added. You get deeper down that road, you start to talk about sports. It gets very convoluted and it's very easy to conflate these things. And I guess, let me just put it this way. Let's talk about the rainbow flag. I'm going to talk in a metaphor for 1 second, if you'll allow me.
Yeah.
The rainbow flag has made its way into the classroom along with the American flag. Now, I am the daughter of a pastor. So I was raised in a Christian church. And I would just bear to ask, if I put a Black Lives Matter flag next to the rainbow flag, next to the American flag, how many more flags do we get to add? Does the Confederacy flag then get to go next to the Black Lives Matter flag and the rainbow flag? So I'm questioning, why do we have the rainbow flag? Why is that a need in the schoolhouse? I understand diversity. I understand children coming together and understanding the world around them. But I just, as a parent, I would rather deal with that issue in my home instead of at the schoolhouse. I would rather you allow me to teach my child how to deal with their emotional issues. I may be an involved parent. I might be a stay-at-home mom who has all the world to sit down with my kids and explain to them, look, this is how we behave. These are our family values. This is where we're at. So if they go to school and they hear something different, I don't know. Perhaps they're not in conflict. Perhaps our values have been instilled in them. Then we go to the other spectrum where you have parents that are not so involved. Maybe they're working 3 jobs. They love their children. They want everything for their children, but they don't have as much support as that stay-at-home mom. And so they're entrusting the school system at that spectrum. They're relying on the school system to help their kindergartner understand emotional, where are you at on the zones of regulation? Let's regulate how you're feeling. Let's go. So again, it's very nuanced. And it's a tricky situation. It's not black and white, but I have a definitive stance of where I would rather it not be a part of the system. I think the system doesn't need to be everything to everyone. Why can't we just go back to education? Can I tell you a personal story for a minute? Because I've
Yeah.
been speaking for a moment. Um, when I was at a very fragile time in my life, around 6th, 7th grade, my parents divorced. And it was a very difficult time for me, and I didn't have the words to explain how I felt. But yet I went to school every day with these feelings that I couldn't express. I could not advocate for myself as a child. And I'm sure there's a lot of kids in our school system that feel that same way, whether it's they're dealing with gender identity issues or they're dealing with, divorce, they're dealing with anxiety, bullying, what have you. And they may not have someone at home, or they may not have an ability to express that at home, but then they go to school and then they don't have a voice to express that either. So I see the need. I see how teachers could incorporate certain things like social emotional learning, things with mental illness. I see how you could incorporate that into the curricula so that these types of fragile, at-risk children, if I was in my English class and I got an assignment that said, let's talk about how we're feeling, or let's analyze. That might have been a tool that helped me to defrag so I could write my feelings out and I could better understand. If I wasn't able to say, hey, I have no one at home to talk to, can I go see the guidance counselor? Or even if I did see the guidance counselor, maybe perhaps I might have been a bit out of his realm. If I'm cutting, you have like a guidance counselor that's like, wait a minute, this is above my pay grade. I don't, I can't do this. Maybe at some point the school should think about bringing in behavioral therapists or licensed social workers to go through some of these children. Put it in the classroom where you have zones of regulation, where these kids are checking in at the top of class. How are you feeling today? Are you bored? Are you happy? Are you mad? Check in. Keep these papers. Teachers, look at the papers. How many blue zones do you have? How many red zones? That's letting you know where these kids are at. And then take that to a resource, take it to the guidance counselor, take it to the behavioral therapist. And then you know what I say to the monopoly? You can't have all these kids. You can't have all this money and funding from the government. Some of these kids don't belong to you. You guys want to build all these new schools, build all these new buildings. What about build something specifically for the IEP? Stop putting the IEPs and the 504s in the regular class. Give them their own education. Just like you separate the charters and the magnets, let's put them in the categories and let's focus in on what these kids need. I was lucky enough to get to the right social worker who took me out of public school, put me in a school that worked for me. I was in an alternative school. I was in an alternative school that used restraints. I was in an alternative school that used seclusion. So when I hear about what happened with the DOJ, that's personal to me. I understand that. If I hadn't gone to this specialized school, God knows what trajectory I would have been on.
Mm-hmm. I got you. I got you. So tell me this. We're almost to the end. Why would someone want to vote for you? Like whatever it is that you are going to make sure that you address if you get there, why do they want to vote for you?
If you're ready for change, if you want change, if you're tired of the status quo. Right now, I know this is a nonpartisan race, but there's a lot of people on the board right now that I feel that are like-minded, and we need to have some diversity. We need somebody that's going to go in there and shake it up a little bit. I am the brick that you throw through the window. I am the brick. I am the disruptor. I am a disruptor, but not in a bad way. Things need to change and they haven't. And what I'm offering to people that they've never heard before is an off-ramp. If your child doesn't fit in that system, in the factory system anymore, if your child's a really good child and all they want is to go to their AP classes, all they want to do is learn and they can't even learn in the classroom, don't you have a right to your tax dollars? Maybe you might want to put them in a parochial school, or maybe you might want to put them in a private school. Maybe you might want to put them in a charter school. Is that not your right? Wealthy people exercise that all the time. They have the wherewithal, they have the resources, they have the knowledge. Who's telling this to the dwindling middle class and the poor? Who is giving the vouchers for the students that are in these bad schools so that they can escape? I'm going to offer an exit ramp. I have so many parents that are coming to me as a homeschooling mom that are like, how do I do this? I can't, I can't anymore. I can't with, my child is having seizures or my child is on the spectrum. I have to pull my child out for the sake of my child. There are a lot of people that came in during COVID and they never looked back. They never went back because they said, hey, I can do this. And so I give support to those parents. And I also want to give support to the parents who, okay, maybe public school is not necessarily where you want your child to be, because you know what? The lid has been taken off of Pandora's box. We've looked inside. We've seen behind the curtain. We've seen Oz. These schools are full of scandal, David. You know it. I know it. These schools are passing these children that can't read, write, and spell, and they're passing them anyway. These schools are passing these children who maybe they just want to get them out of the class. But what happened to holding a student back? What happened to that? What happened to repercussions? Like if you don't do the work, then you don't get passed. Maybe it's because these schools are too worried about the standards. They're too worried about the bureaucracy. They don't want to hear it that they're not making their numbers. It's become more about a business instead of a service.
Mm, I got you. How would people learn more about you?
Well, I hope that they visit my website. It's simply my name, RaynaRemondini.com. But once you get there on that one-page website, make sure you click stance so that you understand my stances on all of the different policies, including the 400s, which you can get a little deeper into that.
Very good. Well, I thank you, Miss Rayna, for coming on. I appreciate you speaking your voice on my platform. My goal is to just get this out to the people so that they will be able to make a better judgment when they go to vote. I don't want people just picking names because, oh, that name looks good, but they have no clue of what their stance is. And for me, I want people up there that are going to worry about my child, not just my child, everybody else's child, and have a good stance and have conviction in their heart about making change. And so I appreciate you coming on, and I wish you all the luck. Well, I don't even want to say luck. I just wish you well in the race coming up. All right. So
Thank,
it's a pleasure.
same here. Thank you for the opportunity.